or you're on one of those social media pages, you're looking for that dopamine hit, that something, that aha moment that's really quick and easy. They want the easy button, right? But in reality, is a lot of things aren't easy. The best way for you to create wealth in America is for you to invest in yourself, have a really good education. Real estate speculation helps as well, right? And then having a consistent process that works for you, and then having time be your benefit and not trying to change things dramatically every other day.
The content presented and discussed is purely intended to be general and educational in nature and should not be construed as specifically tailored investment, financial planning, tax, legal, psychological diagnosis, or other professional advice.
Hello. Thank you all for joining us for another exciting podcast of Ask My Man Manny with my co-host, Dr. Abbey Durkin. And it's a fun summer this summer. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves, getting some time to relax. And that's really actually what this conversation is going to be about today. I know a lot of us are very busy. We want to take care of home. We want to take care of our communities. But we also got to take care of ourselves, right? We have to put the mask on before we work and try to put the mask on somebody else, so to speak, if you've been on an airplane. But I know, Abby, this is a subject that's near and dear to your heart. What's some of the things that come to mind that you think that people should know?
Well, we've had a couple podcasts now where we've been talking about entrepreneurship and about being your own boss. But I feel like, the very community that we've been discussing, they have a kind of a unique need for having something called that work-life balance, right? So with conventional employees, as if there is such a thing, right? Because after and during the pandemic, we had to telework, and now there's a work from home movement. Some of the arguments that have been made for working from home is that it reduces your commute time, and it also helps you connect better with your environment, with your family, provides more opportunities for downtime. But it really got me thinking about, what about the people that are their own boss? What about those entrepreneurs where they didn't necessarily have a brick and mortar office to begin with? How have they been managing that self-care need? Because we've got this opportunity for work from home, for telework, for remote work, which has so many benefits, but that assumes that you are having access to a different environment than the environment that you tend to go into on your 9 to 5. And so work from home sounds awesome because you don't have to walk to work, bike to work, take the train, sit in traffic, all that stuff. And suddenly you can roll out of bed in the comfort of your home and then engage and take names and all the good stuff. But those are not the only types of workers in our economy. And we have workers that are their own bosses, that are entrepreneurs. Of course, there's the surge of the influencer that essentially has to be on brand all the time, that has to be hyper focused on, what their image is or what message that they're putting out, because every move that they make is visible and they don't get a conventional break. So we've got these two rather high visibility now groups of employees that, are the entrepreneur, are the own boss, and then the influencer category. I'm just wondering, how could they possibly balance that? Because the conventional mindset, when you say work-life balance, it implies a division between work and life, and that they're not the same at all. But here we have entrepreneurs, small business owners, social media personnel that have no real division on paper. They exist, eat, sleep, and breathe their business or their product or their image. And that was just on my mind today. And I wanted to see what you thought about that. If you have any hacks or strategies as you are a small business owner yourself How do you do it?
Right. Oh my goodness. This was a tough one. I've been in corporate America for a very long time. So there is some carryover of time management skills that flow into a solopreneur, or whether you're a business operator or you're a business owner, some of the things and duties that you have for yourself. And so, you know what this reminds me of when you start talking about that, what turns from what is separate that's no longer separate is your image, your brand. And I remember a show, one of my favorite movies was a Jim Carrey movie. I'm not sure if you remember it, but The Truman Show. You remember The Truman Show?
Definitely.
You ever see Truman? Oh, so for people who haven't saw that movie, Jim Carrey plays a person who was born to a company, and they pretty much, this is around the same era of road rules, and we started seeing this approach to marketing where people lived somewhat spontaneous, and there was a following of people who wanted that spontaneity and the realism, and wanted to follow. So this show is a fiction. The movie is just fiction where he grows up in this environment, this bubble, where every couple of moments there's not only his normal interactions with the people he knows, but these pauses where they're selling cereal or they're selling this. And if you look at Instagram, that's what it's become. You look at most social media brands and their strategies is you have to speak directly to the consumer. You have to be real. You got to be unfiltered. You got to be there. You got to be not everywhere, but you got to be there wherever that is, and consistent and on time. And so for me, especially with a smaller firm, the differentiation has to be me. And so I struggle with this idea. I am not a extrovert. I'm not a full introvert either. I do take solace in keeping some things private, but the sacrifice you have to make of your privacy is a non-starter for people to buy from you and not know you, because you don't. There used to be a case where you could be a small shop on a corner street and you'd have foot traffic. I remember when I was younger, my bonus mom, my bonus sister, and I, when we went to go shopping, we didn't go click online. We didn't look at websites, or if we did look at a website, it was to just know when they were opening, when they were closing, so we can kind of navigate. We go to 69th Street, we go to Springfield Mall, and we would go to one store, we go to a couple other stores, and they'd have the opportunity to make an impression on us, maybe meet the people, we eat a little bit, and then we'd go back to the first store we saw because the pricing was a little bit better than the third or fourth store that we looked at. That doesn't exist anymore. And so you have, yes, your website brand, but people like to buy from people they know and trust. And if you're not selling commodity, you're trying to create a brand, that means a social media strategy. That means blurring that line between your commercial version of yourself and your personal version of yourself. And the way I did it is I read a couple of books on social media marketing. I'm not sure you want to dive into that specifically, but there's a delegation that needs to be made, right? If you're trying to go up against McDonald's, you're going to run into a lot of problems, not because you can't make the best sandwich, is that you got to do a lot of different things to make a profit doing it for a very long time. And that's not just doing the work. It's talking about how you did it, being consistent, creating a process. And when you're starting a business, you're everything. You're jack of trades for everything. And so marketing is no different. You could spend all day creating your brand image, representing that brand image, but you'll get burnt out very quickly. I remember, I've seen so many people, and it's you probably have them in your circle too. They have a great offer. Maybe they're going into real estate. Maybe they're creating an online store, and they want to do all these different things. They want to be out there. They want to run a business, And then they create videos, they create webinars, and they're all out there. And then all of a sudden there's nothing, right? Because it's that burnout. You can't be there and create a 24/7 marketing strategy and live a life that's successful. One, marketing, social media is toxic to your health. Surgeon General just reported just recently that it is detrimental to young women. And so there's the multiple reasons why we have to have that separation. You have to have that separation because mentally you need it, but then you also you just can't do it. You can't be everywhere all at once. And so for a lot of people, it means for me that I need to delegate some. And so, yes, I create my own marketing strategy. I have a marketing calendar, but I use automation for maybe 25% of the impressions. 25% of the impressions are re-sharing ideas and content that I find that's useful, that I like, and I add a comment to. A 25% is creating my original content, natural content, and then the final 25% is asking for the opportunity to speak with someone. And so when I divide that, instead of having the need to create custom content for 100%, but I have some things that are curated, right? So not doing I'm segmenting and I'm being real, but having some things curated so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to write like 12 different rewrites of copy every month. That's how you build scale. And so you can do that. You can have control, but you can't do it all. You're either going to give up the time and the quality of the work you're doing, the real reason why you're in marketing, or you're going to spend all your time in marketing and not have the quality of your end product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because what you're getting at is really the heart of the matter, which is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And we all have varying degrees of passion and commitment to whatever it is that we're doing, in our own business as entrepreneurs or small business owners, people who are somewhat public figures who just can't imagine that they ever have a day off where they're out of the spotlight. Everybody still needs to have a period of rest, restoration, and recharge. And that need it exists totally independent of your level of passion and dedication to a given cause that you might feel. And of course, the ebb and flow of deadlines and the non-negotiables, those get factored in as well. But I think, one of the perceptions out there with this fluid identity that we've had to cultivate, and this sense of I'm on all the time and I have to work constantly, I think that it's kind of misleading because I'm on the clinical side and I have plenty of people that I'm coaching on a regular basis that are extremely high performers, and they are often struggling with this. Sometimes it's self-imposed and sometimes it's culturally imposed, but they're struggling with what I would call like a delusion that they should be on all the time, that they should be high vis 24/7, that they should not need to unplug ever, that who they are, their brand, their product, that is their entire personality, and they shouldn't be anything other than that. And I'm worried, I guess, that that is being really fed into and sometimes rewarded. And then sometimes maybe it's not so much a reward. If you're doing it, it's more of a punishment if you don't do it. And I was, you know what I'm saying? So it really got me thinking about how do people who are on all the time start to drive that wedge between their product, their passion, their purpose, and then their actual human needs to have that little carve out that's just for them, that isn't visible to anybody else, that is that high quality recharge time. Because I think the risk of not doing that is clearly like the burnout and is the poor decision making. And then you've got a whole fall from grace situation. So can you kind of give some examples of what, through your stages of development, what were some things that you felt were maybe the most impactful ways of resting and recharging? Maybe, in school and then as an owner of a firm, like what's realistic for you?
Yeah. So for the first thing is the most important book I ever read, which is kind of like my foundation of how I manage my day and these competing priorities, was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I read it when I was about 17. I was 17 at the time. I was a freshman in college. And one of the things we need to identify is whether or not we think we're busy or are we saying we're busy. Because being busy and saying we're busy are not the same thing. What do I mean by that? When you get up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? But what do I guess just kind of, what do you think most people do? And yeah, you talk to a lot of people. What do most people do when they get up in the morning?
Check their phone.
Check their phone, check their email.
Yep.
Checking the email, we got to turn it, like, really think about it. When you're checking your email, most of the cases, you're striking out the task of somebody else. They wanted to reach out to you. And then, now I'm not talking about clients. I'm talking about the salesperson, the wholesaler, the person has been trying to chase you down. That's where most of the emails are. There's not, yes, there are some things that you need to do, but you got to start your day with the right mindset and the idea that you are managing your day, not the other way. Your day is not managing you. And so even when I had no job, I was a sophomore, I had responsibilities. I was on 2 executive boards in college. I was in 3 different school organizations. I was in a fraternity. I was in, I had finance. I have tough courses, a number of different things. But what I did was I said, all right, what is the things that are urgent? What are the things that are important? And kind of think about it logically and deal with the things that are important and urgent, yes, but work towards the things that are important and non-urgent. And then as you work on the areas that you have control of within your day, your circle of influence, your circle of a concern starts to shrink as a proportion of that. And so it's working ahead, not putting off to tomorrow the things you can put today, making lists, time blocking, looking at your emails judiciously, getting up in the morning. But when you get up, don't pick up your cell phone. Like, if you can get an alarm clock, I would tell most people, don't use your cell phone as your alarm clock. Get an alarm clock that's separate from your cell phone. That way you don't even have to touch it in the morning when you get up.
Oh, that is really smart.
And a lot of these things are, I'm not saying these are things that I just created myself. I'm just, I want to give credit to where credit is due. I look and I read and I take people, what I can take from other people's best practices that I've heard, whether it be reading or TED Talks and that sort of thing. That's what I do. And one of the key things is your morning. Yeah. What time are you getting up in the morning? You are an early riser. I used to be an early riser in my mid-20s. And I'll be frank, there was a point in time where I kind of got away from that. And, it gets tough trying to keep that consistency. But if you can, get up early. Do some mindfulness techniques, whether it's taking breaths and thinking about parts of your body in order and bringing your attention to those parts of your body when you're sitting still. First thing in your morning, first thing I do in the morning is when I get up is I drink a glass of water. I try to get a gallon of water in me a day. I go ahead and I I pray. Prayer is a part of my life. That's what I do. For you, it's maybe something different. It might be meditation. It might be yoga.
Hey, I like Yoda.
And then I eat, eat Yoda too. Yeah, I eat some breakfast, eat some whole grains. I drink coffee. Some people I know don't drink coffee. They can't. I'm not kicking the coffee habit. That's just me. And then, I'm reading Wall Street Journal, New York Times, figuring out what's the news of the day. And then I'm looking at the emails. I'm looking at the market open. And then my meetings start usually around 10. And so I structure my calendars, who can get access to me by who they are. My clients go first, obviously. And I have different calendars for different groups of people. And so it's all about managing who has access to you, where you're drawing your attention to first, and time blocking. And that's really that's how you start your day. Oh, also I missed the most important part is before your day, whether it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock, the day you're open to the public for your clients, whatever the case may be. The time you're open, and preferably actually the week leading into the Sunday or the Monday leading into it, you're writing down, or here's the things I need to get done today. Here's my list of to-dos. You know where you need to be throughout the day. And I would even go as far as creating an estimate of how much time different things take. And so I have a sticky notes app that I keep on my computer all day. And it has a running tab of the things I need. Okay, I need to follow up on this phone call, and I write an estimate. Okay, how long do I think that conversation, how long is that going to take? All right, I think that's a 5-minute call. Follow up with this software company. That's probably going to be another fit. And so I'm going through and I'm putting an estimate of how much those steps, those tasks will take for me during the day. And so that if a meeting ends early, or I'm waiting for a client, if it's something that's 5 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and knock out one of those things while I'm waiting. And so being early, but figuring out a way to squeeze in those 2 5-minute things that you need to do throughout your day. You're not obsessing over making your bed. You're in the military, right? So it's like getting small wins early, getting consistent. But at the end of the day, you want to look at your day and say, hey, I did as the best that I could. I did as much as I could. I managed my day more than my day managed me. And that's what success is.
Yeah, I love all that. And I'm like thinking about everything that you said. There's a lot of that resonates with me. My approach is a little bit different because, my life, my work is a little different than yours. So what tends to work for me is, you mentioned mindfulness, and I'm sort of like a mindfulness on the go person. So I find it through exercise quite a bit. Because my exercise is I ride my bike to work. And so as I'm going to work, I am practicing mindfulness because I'm looking at my surroundings. I'm also having a mindset of gratitude and openness, where as I'm, racing through the streets, I'm paying attention to what can I smell, or is it nice flowers? Is it cooking food? I'm looking at things that I can see, interactions between people, children walking around and being adorable, the pattern of clouds in the sky, the way that the light hits the buildings, the streaming of that through the trees and the dapple that they make on the ground. And I'm mindfully attending to all of these things that inspire me, that make me feel really grateful for being alive, that help me reconnect with the fact that, I'm on this spinning rock in the middle of space, and I get to see this for a brief moment in time, and how incredible and glorious that is. And then I get to work, and I'm like ready to go, and I have things to talk about. And then I get to do that on the way home, and I get to enjoy the nightscape of the city and feel the breeze of the ocean like on my face. But I'm mindfully attending to that. I'm not trudging through my life like, ho hum, here I go. It's very much, and it's connected with movement, because these things, when you move your body, when you're exercising, you are increasing your blood flow, you're increasing your oxygenation, your brain is responding to your muscle movements, and you're balancing, right? So it is a total body experience. And the reason why I am doing those things is because I don't have like a thriving alternative to go to. And so at this point, I am really grabbing at what I have available to myself. And it also really makes me think about the goals that I have for personal development and social development, because those are human needs as well. And those needs are not going to just get met magically. They have to have a strategy to them. So, for example, if you have 2 days off a week, or if you have a very intermittent schedule, or you are on call, it's super difficult to say, okay, I have all this life admin that I have to get done on one day. That's going to bleed over into the next day. And when do I really have the opportunity to carve out some time that is just for myself? And you might be able to do that, for a period of time, but that means that, you're maybe not making progress on a lot of other things that matter to you. And that produces a bit of a rut. And that's a burnout risk. And so when you have people that are, they don't have a lot of time available, like me, I don't have a ton of time available to myself to develop the things that I care about. It's sort of a gut check moment where you say, okay, I love what I'm doing. I absolutely love what I'm doing. But there's a lot of other things that I love as well. And I want to make sure that I am setting aside ways to nurture those parts of myself. And that is not just going to magically fall in your lap. And so I think one of the strategies that I use is I have to identify the sources that drain me. I have to take a really hard look at, what are the energy vampires in my life? And how am I going to mitigate and manage and minimize those things to the bare bones? Like, what can I get away with in terms of interacting with those energy vampires? And I'm not just like talking about people. I'm talking about bureaucracy. I'm talking about systems. I'm talking about elements of various cultures, things that really sap your energy, and minimizing those things to the greatest extent possible so that you can give yourself a fighting chance to attend to those other parts of yourself that you want to develop, so that you can have the opportunities to say yes to chances that come your way in the future. Because if you don't carve that stuff out, if you don't minimize those energy vampires, if you're not walking through the world every day with a purpose to cultivate your own development, then when those opportunities come to you, you might not be ready, because you have not laid the groundwork for yourself to succeed in your next chapter, And so I feel like this conversation about work-life burnout, it goes so much deeper than hydration and sleep and nutrition, which are all absolutely vital. And you and I both know when those things start to crumble, it's a domino effect, and it's absolutely done. But once you've got those boxes checked, you've hydrated, you've nourished your body, you're well rested, there's a whole other layer of fatigue that people can grapple with, especially the people that are the boss, people who are in charge of a firm, people who are a brand, who are an image, who feel that they have to be on 24/7. And for those people, they have to have a dedicated space to say, what is next? Because maybe what I'm doing right now is awesome, but is it sustainable for years? Is it going to serve me the same way in a year? Am I going to enter my next phase of life stronger than I am right now? Am I going to enter the next phase smarter, more capable, healthier, and more interesting, And so there's an extra layer to this self-care conversation that is very applicable to people who are on the go all the time, who are in that 24-hour op tempo, as we say. They have to carve that stuff out. And I'm so glad that you brought up books and reading. And it's, Kindle, whatever your particular platform is. But I think about the really powerful people that I've worked with in my career, multi-star generals, ambassadors, and they seem to have a way of carving out time to read. And that was their way of stimulating their mind mentally. They were able to do the fitness and the sleep and the hydration, but they also made sure that despite all of the other world demands that were on their shoulders, that they were carving out time to read and develop their mind and stay engaged with working on themselves. And I really like that idea. Yeah.
It's reframing. What you're saying is reframing. I think what a lot of people think this question is that it's a dilemma, meaning there's two possible answers. Really, it's a conundrum. There's multiple opportunities for you to solve this problem, and it's not an either or. I would say in often cases, having some time off makes you better when you're working. And so where you gain is the efficiencies. It's going out, when you're on that beach, you're walking, and you probably had it before. You've been seeing things, you're looking at things, you've been in that same spot trying to solve that problem at your job. And then you go out and you start walking, and then all of a sudden something pops in your head. You see something, you see a leaf fly, whatever the case may be, you're in nature. And then the solution that you needed to come comes. And so there's this, this factor, it's this X factor of just being out there in the world and being able to look at your problems a different way, looking at just being with yourself and just changing your environment that helps you solve the problems that you're working with. And then the other part of this is when you're intrinsically motivated and you don't feel like you're giving everything, you're not, pouring from an empty cup, you're going to enjoy your time off a lot better. You're going to enjoy your work that you do, and you're not going to get burnt down. We live to work, not work to live. And, we can't create our identity around this temporary solution, which is work. Regardless of what you might think, at some point it's going to have to change. Your coworkers are going to change. Your boss is going to change. You may not be working there. You might have to stop working. You may have to do that for health reasons. And so it's not a safe place to create your identity. It's a part of your identity, but think not of your identity as that cog or that title, but affecting the world through your skill set. And when you define what your contributions are to the world economically in the broadest terms, you'll come to a better peace with where your function is, whether that's a small function in what you're doing or it's a big one.
Yeah, I think you
case
really...
in point, I really want to do a lot of pro bono work. I really want to do a lot of pro bono work. It just did not work where there was competing priorities. So what I did is I I worked towards creating a segment within my for-profit firm to create content, so when you listen to this podcast, you're learning something, and people are not paying directly for the lessons that they're getting on this conversation. So just reframing, how you want to tackle your challenges. And then exercise, like you say, exercise is just, I think, the most important thing. You got to find time.
You really hit on what I think the message of today is, which is that people, and I think people know this at their core, but life has a way of making you forget things that you knew. But I think the message is that rest makes you better, that finding ways to rest and recharge yourself makes you better at the things that you care about. And I think people forgot that. They see rest as being lazy or detracting from their personal mission. But what we've come to learn in our respective walks of life is that rest, in whatever form it takes in your life, and recharge, whatever form that takes in your life, makes you better at the stuff you care about.
And I have to, it's like with Alice in Wonderland, she has this saying, says, I'm pretty good at giving myself advice, but I seldomly take it. When I first started, I was like, I gotta go full speed. And I was working 7 days a week. I had 3 different jobs and 2 businesses. And like that, after a time, you just get burnt out. And I had to say goodbye to some things. And so I was scared to do that. I never want to, and you're never really sure with certain opportunities, but it actually ended up being better for me. And so that's speaking from experience. We have to go, but I think we could talk forever on this subject, more to come. And I thank everybody here for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Manny.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody love everybody.
The content presented and discussed is purely intended to be general and educational in nature and should not be construed as specifically tailored investment, financial planning, tax, legal, psychological diagnosis, or other professional advice. Any data cited is valid as of the date of presentation, but please know that such data are frequently subject to change. Any investment performance referenced is purely past performance, which is no guarantee of any future performance. Nothing contained in this course should be construed as an offer to sell, a solicitation of an offer to buy, or a recommendation of any security or other financial product or investment strategy. All investment, tax, and financial planning strategies involve risk that you should be prepared to bear. Investment, financial planning, tax, legal, and other professional advice is specific to each individual and entity, and you are highly encouraged to consult with professionals of your choosing before taking any action based on the contents presented or discussed herein.